Joining me now to reflect on the meaning of the Iowa caucuses going forward is Congressman Schock. He's Republican from the 18th District. He was in Iowa for the activities. Congressman Schock, we talked to you before on the phone. I invited you into the studio. Here you are. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Jason. Good to be with you.
All right, let's get right to it. You were in Iowa on behalf of Mitt Romney. But I have to ask you, now, you're an Illinois congressman, so why would it make sense for you to be in Iowa with Romney? Don't they want to hear from local people?
Well, Paul, I was, when I endorsed Mitt Romney, he asked me whether I would come to Iowa and help him campaign. It's a neighboring state. I'm a Midwesterner like Iowa, and I've done some campaigning for some of the congressional candidates in Iowa. So I joined him on the bus last week on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'll tell you, exciting. It was the first time, really, that CNN came out with the first national poll on Wednesday that showed him taking the lead in Iowa. As you know, and most political pundits would tell you, Mitt Romney was never expected to even do well in Iowa. He hadn't even really invested much resources, had 4 full-time staff members in the entire state of Iowa. But Iowans, like every Republican primary voter, did their due diligence, heard from all of the candidates. They've been all over the state. And decided at the end of the day, Mitt Romney was the strongest candidate for us to nominate, and Mitt Romney is the best candidate to lead this country in the next 4 years.
Now, Congressman, of course, it's the job of people like me to analyze all of this and take a look at this. And of course, Mitt Romney did eke out a victory. There's no question about that. But and even though you're a supporter of him, you have to sit back and say, look, he spent millions of dollars in this campaign, been there a long time. As a little trivia point, he actually got more votes, 6 more votes in 2008 that he got this time around. My point is, Rick Santorum shows up, very little money spent, just hitting the pavement, and really just about took that primary. I mean, is it fair enough to say Rick Santorum also gets a win?
Well, without a doubt. I mean, Rick Santorum was all in Iowa. I mean, Rick Santorum has been running a one-state race for president. He's had all his campaign staff there. He's spent all his money there. He moved his whole family there and spent the entire Christmas and New Year's holiday in Iowa. So kudos to him for doing well there. But there's only one candidate who's put together a nationwide effort, who's on the ballot in every state and has the ability to raise the money to compete toe-to-toe with Barack Obama in a general election, and that candidate is Mitt Romney. I'd also say that that while there's been a ton of candidates in the race in Iowa, you see Michelle Bachmann now dropping out, Rick Perry and some of the others may do the same eventually. Mitt Romney did very well in Iowa, exceeded expectations, and Governor Romney's plan to the nomination never included winning Iowa. And so the fact that he won Iowa shows that he's exceeded expectations, shows that even the most conservative state in the union believes that Mitt Romney is a qualified and capable leader for our party, and I'm glad that they warmed to him.
Although some said, look, 75% of the vote went elsewhere, I have to assume that Mitt Romney would be very happy if a lot of these more conservative candidates hung around for a while to sort of let him kind of slide above them as they split up that very conservative vote. Fair enough?
You know, Paul, yeah, sure. Look, I think the more the merrier. But at the end of the day, Paul, what's so interesting to me as a conservative congressman myself is I sit there and hear the criticisms that Mitt Romney's not conservative enough, and I say, look, let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Nobody is going to be a perfect candidate. Mitt Romney was the governor of Massachusetts, balanced the budget all 4 years, cut taxes 19 times as governor, created a rainy day fund of a $2 billion reserve so when their state fell on hard times they weren't in debt. Can you imagine a governor of Illinois doing that and then being called not conservative? I mean, I don't know what's more conservative than cutting taxes, balancing the budget, living within our means. And the number one issue facing our country right now is our debt, with overspending, with an economy that's not growing. We need a guy like Mitt Romney who is conservative, but also, if he can get it done in a state like Massachusetts, he's probably the guy that can get it done in Washington, D.C. Let's face it, it's dysfunction out there right now. That's why Congress has such a that's why Congress has such a low approval rating. If he can get it done in Massachusetts, I think he can get it done in Washington, D.C.
All right. Well, today he picked up what some would argue is an important endorsement. I want to get your reaction to it on the other side. Here's John McCain, what he had to say about Mitt Romney.
I am really here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to make sure that we make Mitt Romney the next president of the United States of America, and New Hampshire is a state that catapults him on to victory in a very short period of time. That's why I'm here. By the way, we forgot to congratulate him on his landslide victory last night. Did you?
All right, well, a little humor in there as well. But, you know, here's the other thing, at least on the downside of it. Look, John McCain's a moderate. It's a moderate supporting a moderate. Well, do endorsements really even make a difference?
Well, Paul, there you go again. Mitt Romney was the alternative, the conservative alternative to John McCain last cycle. I mean, remember, it came down to Mitt Romney and John McCain, and the conservatives were rallying behind Mitt Romney as the alternative to John McCain. And now Mitt Romney is the front runner, and there are some conservatives saying, well, we're not sure he's conservative enough. Look, we need somebody who understands how the private sector works, who's not going to be antagonistic to business and to free market and to grow our economy, and wants to make America the #1 job creator and the #1 place to hire in the world here in the United States. Mitt Romney gets it. And whether it's been the CEO of Bain Capital and buying and turning around companies, whether it's been turning around the Olympics, which was in total dysfunction, and he turned it into a profitable enterprise, or whether it's going into the toughest state of the union, Massachusetts, and delivering and being a good conservative governor of Massachusetts, he's done the job. And I think that's why John McCain, who obviously went toe-to-toe with Mitt Romney, there was a lot of negative attacks back and forth between the two of them, is willing to suck it up and say, you know what, at the end of the day, Mitt Romney is the best qualified to lead in this race. And you talk about moderates, I would argue that John Huntsman is more moderate than Mitt Romney, and if John McCain wanted to endorse the most moderate candidate, he would have gone with Huntsman over Mitt Romney.
Yeah, fair enough. You've got that right about Huntsman. Well, hang with me. There's a lot more to talk to you about. Glad you're here in the studio with me, so stay where you are, because I'm going to have more with Congressman Aaron Schock after this. If you want to call in with questions, now's the time. 873-582-588. We'll be taking your calls after the break. And we're back now. We've got Congressman Aaron Schock, Republican of the 18th District, visiting with us, and I'm so glad he's here again. Good evening, Congressman.
Good evening.
We've been talking about the Iowa caucuses. I want to talk about Washington and some other things. Do one crossover topic, which is, you know, we're going to hear, whether it's Mitt Romney or all the Republicans right now, going after the president on pretty much everything they can. When you look at foreign policy, this president's pretty tough to go at. I mean, you got to give any president credit for what happens on their watch. I don't care who it is, right? So we get Osama bin Laden, Gaddafi, Mubarak. I mean, all these things happen. Iraq war ends, all on Obama's watch. Some actually describe him as a fairly moderate Republican. In the world of foreign policy, do you have any gripes with the president in that realm?
Well, I would argue that the fruits that we're seeing are the result of a very strong foreign policy under President Bush. Let's face it, if Gaddafi still had weapons of mass destruction, if he was still a nuclear state, he would not have been easily taken out by his own people. That's a fact. And it's a fact that President Bush's very stalwart opposition to Gaddafi is viewed as kind of a Western Texan tough guy. And after going into Iraq, after going into Afghanistan, Gaddafi thought perhaps he would be next. Ultimately led to him to disarm, and ultimately led for his people to lead the revolt to ultimately overthrow him.
So you're not giving Obama credit for this stuff?
Well, what I'm suggesting is a similar situation will never occur in Iran if we do not stop Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. And the president's complacency in allowing for Iran to march towards nuclear armament only means that the potential downfall of an Ahmadinejad and an overthrowing of the Ayatollahs who run that country seems more and more unlikely. And so this kind of laissez-faire, leading from behind, as the president used, strategy, I don't believe will bear the same kind of fruits that we've seen play out over the first 2 years of the president. Now, give him 100% credit for ordering the taking out of bin Laden. I think the ultimate credit goes to the teams, SEAL Team 6 that actually did the work, but certainly would not have wanted him to equivocate on that, and give him kudos and props for doing that.
Very briefly, running out of time here, but you're going back. You're going to have to deal soon with the payroll tax increase again. Should we expect another disastrous discussion, or do we expect this to be far more peaceful than the 2-month extension?
Well, you know, Paul, I was disappointed, like I think most Americans were, that we couldn't get a 1-year deal. The president had asked for a 1-year extension of the payroll tax holiday, a 1-year extension of unemployment benefits, and the House put together a one-year deal that was paid for. It got Republican and Democrat supports. It went to the Senate, and we all know what played out. The Senate passed a 2-month bill because they could only come up with 2 months worth of revenue to pay for, and then went home for the holiday. And we looked like the radicals in the House for holding out, wanting to hold the Senate accountable to say, look, 2 months is not a way to pass tax policy. 2 months of unemployment benefits is not the kind of certainty we need, and we kept holding out and realizing the Senate was not going to come back from their Christmas vacation, and so we went along with the 2 months, finally acquiescing, and now 2 months into this year we're going to have to deal with it once again. But nobody honestly believes the unemployment benefits or the payroll tax holiday are going to go away. I think we'll get another extension, hopefully, for the remainder of this year.
All right. Hang with me because there's still more. I got to talk to you about your own ambitions, too, looking forward. So hang with me here. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with Congressman Aaron Schock here in Politics Tonight. Stay with us. We're back with Congressman Aaron Schock. Congressman, not a lot of time, but I just got to ask you, a lot of guts on your part. You posed for Men's Health magazine, known as one of the fittest member of Congress. I used to be built like you, and then I caught a flu. But my question for you, any repercussions from doing that? Happy you did it? What do you think?
You know what? Anytime you do something like that, you're going to get positive and negative feedback. Anytime you do anything, quite frankly, you're going to hear from your detractors. But overall, the response has been overwhelmingly positive. It was the most successful fitness challenge that Men's Health has ever done in the history of their magazine. We partnered with the Today Show. We got over 50,000 Americans engaged. Over 10,000 Americans submitted before photos, which are the most difficult thing to get somebody to do. So at the end of the day, if we influenced a few thousand people's lives permanently, it was well worth the razzing that I took.
You got me to put my candy bar down as well. Very briefly, look, you're a young guy. You were, youngest member of Congress, youngest school board president back home. I mean, you've been doing this stuff, working since you're 15. You got to have future ambitions. Is Congress it for you? I know you're happy being a congressman. I won't let you get away with that answer. Are we looking at a potential future senator or governor? What do you think about?
You know, Paul, I think the best thing to do, whether you're in the private sector or the public sector, is to do a really good job for the people that have hired you. And if you over-deliver and exceed expectations and outperform the people around you, then you're most likely to be looked to when another potential position opens up, whether you work for a company or whether you work in the public sector. I don't know in politics what's going to happen. I don't know who's going to die. I don't know who's going to retire. In Illinois, I don't know who's going to get indicted. Yeah. So I don't know what opportunities will open up, but certainly I love the position that I'm in now. I feel grateful to be able to be there, but I also care about our state, and I feel disappointed that we don't have better leadership stepping up there as well. So we'll have to wait and see.
Fair enough. Candid answer. That works for me. All right. Congressman, thanks for being with me. I appreciate it. We'll see you here again soon, I hope.
Thanks, Paul. Happy New Year. Good to be with you.
And you as well.